Portal is a series that I've been familiar with and intrigued by for a long time, but never got around to playing myself. I can remember all the kids at my school who were obsessed with video games would rave about it, but for some reason it never crossed my path. Which is a shame because I think a lot of people would consider them classics and some of the greatest games ever made. For example, on Metacritic, the orange box, which is the bundle that the original Portal was included in, is ranked as the 22nd best game of all time, and Portal 2 is ranked as the 52nd best. And then on IGN's definitive best games of all time list, which they created by looking at loads of other best of lists over the years, Portal 2 is ranked as the 24th best game of all time, and the original Portal is ranked at 38th. With this in mind, I think it's pretty safe to say that these games are highly revered and loved by a lot of people. The question that I want to ask is, do they hold up? Portal is a 2007 puzzle platform game developed and published by Valve. The project actually began with the 2005 game Narbacular Drop, which was developed by students at the DigiPen Institute of Technology. One of Valve's developers actually saw the game at a careers fair and was so impressed that he invited the students to come down and present the game at the Valve offices. After the presentation, the Lord and Saviour himself, Gabe Newell, offered the team jobs at the studio to help develop the game further. The original concept of the game actually had you playing as a princess trying to escape a dungeon, but this was eventually dropped in favour of the Aperture Science approach. The team also worked with Mark Laidlaw, the writer of Valve's Half-Life series, to help incorporate Portal into the Half-Life universe. This was done in part because of the project's limited art resources. Instead of creating new art for Portal, they reused assets from Half-Life 2. It took approximately 2 years and 4 months to complete the game after the DigiPen team was brought into Valve, and no more than 10 people worked on it throughout its development. In Portal, you play as Shell, a silent protagonist who awakens in the Aperture Science Enrichment Center to the voice of Gladys, a passive-aggressive AI who challenges and taunts you through a series of increasingly dangerous Portal-based puzzles. While the initial goal is a promised reward of cake, the facade begins to crumble as you discover secret maintenance areas filled with frantic warnings that make you realise all may not be as it seems. Now, Portal is quite a short game. I managed to complete the main story in one sitting in just under 2.5 hours. This isn't necessarily a negative though, as I came into these games off the back of playing The Witcher 3. And don't get me wrong, I love my experience, but it was quite a long game and there's a few moments that did feel tedious. Portal, on the other hand, felt much more refined and there's absolutely no fat on the bone. The focus is solely on completing the puzzles in front of you. There's no inventory management or collectibles that you have to worry about. The simplicity was refreshing and it's one of the game's strengths. When I finished the game, I did find myself going, oh, is it done already? But at the same time, I think it's better that than it overstaying its welcome. After I finished the main story, I did complete all the advanced levels that you unlock, but if I'm honest, I enjoyed them a lot less. The difficulties increased, which meant that I got a little bit frustrated in moments, and then because it's not got the same narrative direction that the main story's got, it just felt a lot less rewarding. Don't get me wrong, I think it's good that these levels are here, as people who just really enjoy the puzzles and want more of a challenge, they have access to that, but it's not something that I think is essential for you to play through to get the full experience of the game. Now, I have to give a shout out to the Portal gun, which is easily one of the best tools or weapons that I've used in all my time playing video games. It just works so seamlessly, and I can imagine if I would have played this game at 8 years old when it had come out, it would have blown my mind. It feels really ahead of its time, and I think it's the primary reason this game has maintained so much acclaim over the years. Don't get me wrong, the game has a lot of other positives. I'm not saying it's purely down to the Portal gun, but it is just so iconic. It's just so fluid in how it works, how it carries momentum through the portals, and it opens up a plethora of answers to the questions that are asked by the different puzzles. I have to give a massive hats off to the students at DigiPen who first developed this mechanic and then managed to develop it into a meaningful experience. Puzzle games aren't really a genre I tend to play, but this one kept me engaged throughout the whole runtime, just due to how fluid and simple the mechanics were. There was no point after completing a level that I thought it was poorly designed, and I'd just kind of brute forced my way through it. On top of this, mechanics were always introduced in an accessible way. You'd first be given the opportunity to play around with a mechanic in a simple and safe test, and then it would start incorporating multiple mechanics for you to have to juggle in more increasingly difficult tests. But this slow progression of them incorporating the mechanics made it a lot easier for you to get a grasp of what you needed to do to get through them, and it meant every puzzle that I completed by the end felt rewarding, even if in the moment I was really frustrated. And having this efficient gameplay loop while also having Gladys's witty and dark narration meant there were multiple layers to the game.
I'm not kidding now. Turn back or I will kill you. I'm going to kill you. And all the cake is gone.
It isn't a case of just completing these levels until there's none left. There's a narrative that unfolds in the background as you realise you're an expendable lab rat and have to find a way to defeat your overseer and escape the facility. The most emotional moment for me has to be when you're forced to incinerate your trusty companion cube. It was genuinely a little bit heartbreaking.
You did it. The weighted companion cube certainly brought you good luck. However, it cannot accompany you for the rest of the test and, unfortunately, must be euthanized. Please escort your companion cube to the Aperture Science Emergency Intelligence Incinerator.
If I'm being completely honest though, as much as I really enjoyed my time playing Portal, it did feel a bit like a glorified tech demo. And I know that's really harsh to say, it's probably the greatest tech demo of all time, alongside maybe Wii Sports. And it holds its own as a game, but when I finished playing, I found myself more excited to see how they expanded the vision in the sequel than I was blown away by what I'd just experienced. I could see the potential of what they'd be able to do if they built on the foundations that were laid, but it's not an experience that I'm going to be itching to go back and replay. Now I know a lot of people really love the setting of the first game and the fact that it is so minimalist and simple, but it started to feel a bit one note for me by the end and a little bit bland. I'm definitely going to get roasted in the comments by someone because what I'm saying is a little bit sacrilegious. But there was no point throughout my playthrough where I had to take a moment because I was in awe of how the game looked or how the art was designed. It felt very sterile. Don't get me wrong, I do think this was intentional. I think the developers were going for more of a minimalist feel to the game, but I think this was also due to the constraints of budget and time. And before you Portal Ultras come at me with your pitchforks, I will say that I think this is a groundbreaking game that introduced one of the coolest tools ever in the Portal gun. The story is more than serviceable for a short puzzle game, and it has a dark comedic tone that keeps it from feeling tedious and devoid of personality. It holds its own as a solo title, even though it was originally released as part of a bundle. And I think for enthusiasts who are going back through the classic games that they've missed over the years, it is worth the time and money to play. I just feel that after playing both entries in the series, it's kind of left in the shadow of what the sequel managed to achieve 4 years later.
It's been a long time. How have you been? I think we can put our differences behind us. For science.
After the success and critical acclaim of Portal, Valve decided to make Portal 2, and this time as a standalone product. Work began almost immediately after the release of the original, and this time the team grew from 10 people to almost 30 to 40 people, and they became way more ambitious in the scope of what they wanted to create. Project manager Eric Johnson stated that Valve's goal for Portal 2 was to re-surprise players, which he considered a pretty terrifying prospect. The game actually went through a few different iterations during development. One build of the game actually omitted portals and instead had a mechanic called f-stops where players would use an aperture camera, with which they could take photos of objects, store the object in a camera, and then replace it while rotating or scaling it. This version of the game also didn't include Shell or Gladys and instead followed a new test subject involved in a conflict within Aperture after Johnson uploaded himself into an artificial intelligence and took control of a robot army. Now I have to give a massive thank you to the playtesters who played the early versions of this game and expressed disappointment at some of the core elements being missing. Otherwise we wouldn't have got the Portal 2 that was eventually released. In Portal 2 you again awaken as Shell, this time centuries later in a derelict, overgrown Aperture Science, and are recruited by a bumbling personality core named Wheatley to help him escape the decaying facility. During the escape you accidentally reboot Gladys, who immediately resumes testing Shell as revenge for her previous murder. With Wheatley's help, you eventually sabotage Gladys's turret and neurotoxin production, successfully replacing her with Wheatley as the facility's overseer. However, the power goes to Wheatley's head, he becomes out of control and traps Gladys in a potato battery, sending both you and her plummeting miles into the old salt mine ruins of 1950s era Old Aperture. As you navigate these lower levels, Gladys discovers her origins as the consciousness of Cave Johnson's assistant, Carolyn, leading to an uneasy alliance between the two of you as you attempt to return to the modern facility and confront Wheatley. I went into Portal 2 so excited as I wanted to see how they expanded the ideas that they introduced in the first game, and it goes without saying they really delivered. I'm not even going to try and build up suspense about what my thoughts are on this game, as I'm probably going to spend the rest of the video gushing about it. I think it's as close to flawless as a video game can get. Everything good in Portal was great here, and the few parts of Portal that I felt were lacking were massively improved. Let's start with the story. In the first game, the journey that you go on is very simple and minimalist. It's basically a straight path with a slight deviation towards the end as more of the truth is revealed to you. Portal 2 on the other hand is like a roller coaster in comparison. The twists and turns throughout the game left me genuinely shocked in moments. When I was first playing, I kind of assumed the whole game was going to be me and Wheatley going through a series of puzzles just trying to escape the facility and defeat Gladys. Kind of similar to what the first game was, just this time with Wheatley as my companion. But the rug pull when Wheatley becomes overcome with power and you slowly start to realise he's going to be the central antagonist of the game was something that I didn't see coming, and I was really happy that they went in that narrative direction.
Oh really? That's what the two of you think, is it? Well, maybe it's time I did something then.
What are you doing? No, no, no!
And don't think I'm not onto you too, lady. You know what you are? Selfish. I've done nothing but sacrifice to get us here. And what have you sacrificed? Nothing. Zero. All you've done is boss me around. Well, now who's the boss? Who's the boss? It's me.
And having Gladys as my companion in potato form was such a brilliant choice, as it flipped the dynamic from the first game and forced me to empathise with her in moments. Especially when she discovers that her programming originates from Cave Johnson's assistant, Carolyn, and you can see that this realisation gives her some discomfort.
The quicker you get through, the quicker you'll get your $60.
Hold on.
Carolyn, are the compensation vouchers ready?
Yes, sir, Mr. Johnson. Why did I just... Who is that? What the hell is going on here?
Oh, and if you're wondering who Cave Johnson is, as I have mentioned him a few times, he's basically the founder of Aperture. He's like the Elon Musk of the company. The finale in this game is so much more interesting than in the first as well, with your final action being to shoot a portal onto the moon and pull Wheatley into the vacuum of space.
Space! Let go! We're in space!
It's such an ingenious idea and it felt incredibly cinematic. I also love the moment where Gladys pulls you into safety as you're hanging on for dear life. I think it's one of the few moments over both games where I actually got goosebumps. It's a full circle moment from the ending of the first game where you destroy her to escape the facility. This time she saves you from certain death and lets you leave willingly. This game is just incredibly cinematic though, and it makes me sad that the J.J. Abrams adaptation that was announced back in 2013 hasn't come to fruition. I think it's an IP that could very easily be adapted into a successful film, so I really hope that one day they're able to do it. Next, I want to discuss the aspect of the games that I enjoyed the least in the original, the settings and environments. Not to say that it was bad in Portal, it just felt very one note by the end and a little bit bland. I definitely would have been disappointed if the sequel would have stuck with that setting throughout and not had some variety in the environments. Thankfully, Portal 2 really delivers in this area. You start in the overgrown Aperture facility, the remnants of what you had destroyed and left to the elements after the events of the first game. Everything is broken and falling apart, it looks very dystopian, and it immediately felt like an interesting switch up from the sterile atmosphere that was consistent throughout Portal. Then, after Gladys awakens and we're thrust back into her tests, we actually start to see environments that were similar to what we had in the first game, only this time they're sleeker and darker. My favourite environments though have to be the old Aperture levels that we get thrown down to after Wheatley takes control. There are expansive caves, industrial structures, wood-panelled offices. The scale of the world down here is massive, and I definitely had a few of those moments where I had to stop for a second to take in the environment around me. Something that I'd said was missing from the first game. Finally, we also get the Wheatley-fied Aperture, where the environments and tests are unstable and chaotic, matching the mind of their creator. There's just so much more visual variety throughout a playthrough of Portal 2, which helps keep it engaging and appealing even for a game that was released back in 2011. The voice acting in this game is also great. Ellen McLean reprises her role as Gladys and does a great job in portraying an AI with complexity. I mean, she was great in the first game, but she has a lot more to do this time round as a character goes on a journey of discovery alongside the silent protagonist. While doing research for this video, I actually discovered that Ellen is a classically trained opera singer, which makes a lot of sense considering the quality of the songs that play during the end credits of both games. J.K. Simmons as Cave Johnson was also really cool. I can't believe they managed to convince him to come onto this project.
Those of you who volunteered to be injected with praying mantis DNA, I've got some good news and some bad news. Bad news is we're postponing those tests indefinitely. Good news is we've got a much better test for you. Fighting an army of mantis men. Pick up a rifle and follow the yellow line. You'll know when the test starts.
His character's dialogue really helped expand the lore, and having J.K. Simmons really gave it the gravitas that it needed. I mean, this is the man behind J. Jonah Jameson in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy, as well as Terrence Fletcher in Whiplash, one of my all-time favourite performances. The best casting choice for me though was Stephen Merchant as Wheatley.
Most test subjects do experience some cognitive deterioration after a few months in suspension. Now, you've been under for quite a lot longer, and it's not out of the question that you might have a very minor case of serious brain damage.
I'm a humongous fan of the XFM radio shows that featured him, Ricky Gervais and Carl Pilkington, as well as the podcast that followed. I can't tell you the amount of times I've re-listened to those shows and heard Merchant's Bristolian voice have arguments back and forth with Ricky and Carl.
You're always whinging.
About what?
Everything.
When? When did I last have a moan?
Just before we came on air.
Right, and why was that?
I don't know, I can't remember. Because we were in good mood. We were in a good mood, me and Rick.
I'll tell you why.
Go on.
Because you brought a song in at 10 to 1.
Yeah.
With a load of effing and jeffing in it.
Yeah.
And saying, can you edit this?
Yeah. Yeah. But that's your job.
You could have brought it in yesterday.
No, I couldn't.
Why not?
I hadn't thought of it.
But why?
So hearing him in an all-time classic game like this was such a treat. I think it's such perfect casting as well, as he plays that bumbling, awkward role really well. It's kind of what he's like in real life, or at least was early on in his career. He also did a great job capturing that power-hungry chaos in the later game. Again, traits that I've seen in Merchant when he's going on sarcastic rants about how many BAFTAs he's won, or how he's tried using his fame to get a leg up in situations. Not that Merchant is a parallel of Wheatley in any way, I just think his comedic sensibilities perfectly fit the character. Now, I can't discuss Portal 2 without getting into how it improved on the gameplay mechanics and level design from the first game. In Portal, the tests were all set in the same sort of environments and the mechanics were limited to weighted storage cubes, pressure buttons, energy beams, fizzlers, and turrets. Now don't get me wrong, these were all good. When they were combined together it felt like there was a variety and did a great job in letting you play around with the portal gun and learn its mechanics. Portal 2 however took it to another level by not only having controlled tests, you also had to navigate around much more open environments that didn't feel like they were directly designed for you. I know it's a game and it's obviously been meticulously planned so that there's paths for you to take, but it felt much more spontaneous and natural. At times it gave you the illusion that there may be multiple ways to progress through a level even if there was one set path. On top of this, there were so many mechanics introduced. For example, you have the 3 different types of gels: the blue gel that would make you bounce, the orange gel that would make you a lot faster, and the white gel that would increase the surface area that you could shoot your portals onto. There were continuous laser beams, redirection cubes, faith plates which acted as catapults, hard light bridges, excursion funnels which were tractor beams that could be reversed, and you even had Franken turrets that were created from what you and Wheatley did earlier. So not only were the levels that you were navigating through more expansive, the mechanics and toolset that you had to use to overcome the obstacles were expanded as well. I can't count the amount of times I was stuck on a level and I was sat there saying to myself, am I an idiot? Only for me to complete the level a few moments later and be calling myself a genius. It took what made the gameplay good in the first game, added some complexity to it, and just made it great. On top of this, you had a deeper story, more characters, an expansion to the lore, interesting environments, improved graphics, and the game was just way funnier.
Alright, I've been thinking. When life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Make life take the lemons back. Get mad! I don't want your damn lemons! What am I supposed to do with these?
Take the lemons.
Demand to see life's manager. Make life rue the day it thought it could give Cave Johnson lemons. Do you know who I am? I'm the man who's gonna burn your house down with the lemons. I'm gonna get my engineers to invent a combustible lemon that burns your house down.
Funny people. He said what we're all thinking.
Now, to answer the question, do the Portal games hold up? Yes, I think they both do. As much as I had a couple of nitpicks with the first game, it came out 20 years ago and I still really enjoyed playing it. The gameplay was fun, the story was short and sweet, but most importantly it laid the foundations for the sequel. I know it's obvious to say, but without Portal we don't get Portal 2. And that would be a travesty, as I think the sequel is a masterpiece and one of the greatest games I've ever played. I can't think of a flaw for the game, as every aspect seems to be in harmony with each other, creating a fulfilling and satisfying experience. Portal is a game that I'd only really recommend to gaming enthusiasts who are looking to play it for the historical or cultural impact it had. Whereas Portal 2 I would recommend to anyone. In fact, if you're watching this video and you haven't played it, pick it up and give it a go. I really don't think you'll regret it. I will say as well, I know the co-op aspect of Portal 2 is meant to be really good. I've not got round to doing it for this video, but it's something that I will try and do down the line and hopefully talk about in a future video. But yeah, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching my first proper video essay as I try and go through and play all the games on my Steam library. I really appreciate all the feedback on my first video. Some of the comments were so lovely and I wasn't expecting it at all. I actually ran a poll on my YouTube community and on my Instagram stories for what game I'm going to play next. I kind of went with a horror theme, so the 3 choices were the original Resident Evil, but the remake of it, the remake of Dead Space, and then BioShock. BioShock actually won those polls, so that'll be the next game that I focus a video essay on, one that I'm excited to play. Before starting this YouTube channel, I actually used to host a podcast with my friend Matt, and he loves BioShock, so I'm looking forward to playing it and letting him know what I think about it. Yeah, go and follow me on Instagram if you want to be involved in future polls for what I'm going to do videos on next, or just general questions about the direction of the channel. But if you don't use Instagram, I'll probably put polls on the YouTube community as well, so people still have a chance to vote. The next 3 games I'm going to let you choose between are GTA 4, Sleeping Dogs, and the remake of the original Mafia. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching.